Bitcoins as a completely deregulated form of digital currency have generated both skepticism and support. Credited with having created the country's simplest Bitcoin mobile exchange is Zebpay. We met with the company's Ahmedabad-based management team to come to our own conclusions around their big bet on Bitcoins. Given that Bitcoins are created and held electronically, they're often described as a currency that's virtual. But having outperformed every other traditional currency in the year 2016, the enthusiasm around Bitcoins is very real. Pioneering a platform for the Indian population to seamlessly buy and sell Bitcoins with the swipe of their mobile device is Zebpay. We caught up with the company's co-founder trio for a breakdown on Bitcoins and to understand how a cryptocurrency can be the key to controlling one's financial destiny. Bitcoins are increasingly being branded as the Internet of Money. But for those unfamiliar with the concept, help us better understand by breaking it down in layman terms.
Absolutely. The best way to understand Bitcoins is to compare it with the Internet. So if you think about before the Internet, the way you would consume media or the way you would communicate, you would need a middleman for everything, right? So for example, if you would want to watch television, the middleman would be Doordarshan or CNN. If you would want to make a call, the middleman would be the national phone service like AT&T or BSNL for news, newspapers, and so on and so forth. What the Internet did was remove the middleman. So now two people could share videos, communicate, share text messages, voice calls, and when that happened, innovation happened on a global scale on this network. The other thing that happened was that there were different networks for different medium, right? And all of these mediums homogenized on this one network, the Internet. If you think about the current financial infrastructure, there are different networks for different purposes. So if you want to do a small transaction, then we use wallet companies like Paytm. For larger transactions, we use RTGS, NEFT. Then every country has its own infrastructure, own network, and none of these are interoperable, right? What Bitcoins does, it homogenizes all of these networks into one decentralized network. Bitcoin and the Bitcoin network is going to be the next internet, the internet of trust, the internet of value, the internet of money, and we want to be at the forefront of leading this revolution.
But how do Bitcoins compare to traditional payment services with respect to ease and speed of transactions?
Bitcoin and the Bitcoin network is vastly superior to anything that we currently have. So the current payment networks are kind of like the postal system. You know, it takes a long time for those transactions to happen, especially cross-country transactions. The charges are very high. There's a lot of documentation and so on and so forth. Bitcoin is like email. You know, you can send Bitcoins 24/7, 365 days. It's instant and the cost is negligible. So comparing Bitcoins to the current payment networks or current money transfer services is a bit like comparing email with postal services. There's just no comparison. It's vastly superior.
Now, even as end users get beyond the initial speculation around the concept, there's an obvious learning curve to buying, selling, storing, and ultimately consuming Bitcoins. How do you tackle that challenge at Zebpay?
Yeah, absolutely. So before we started Zebpay, you know, when we would talk about Bitcoins to regular people, you know, we would get them excited. And if they want to, and then they would ask us, you know, okay, great, you know, how do I buy my Bitcoins? How do I store? And then we would be like, okay. So at Zebpay, we started with the mission to make Bitcoin simple. With the idea to spread Bitcoins to 1 billion people, we have to make it simple. Zebpay is a mobile-only app. And if you can use an instant messaging app, you will be able to use Zebpay. At Zebpay, we've abstracted all the complexities behind Bitcoins. You don't have to worry about losing a Bitcoin. So storing a Bitcoins is as simple as WhatsApp. And that's primarily been the success, one of the main reasons for a success over the last year.
Well, for any concept to gain commercial acceptance, striking the right alliances becomes critical. What attempts have you made to build an ecosystem around the app?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the first thing that we are doing is education, you know, education across the spectrum, educating potential users, educating financial institutions, banks, stock exchanges. So we actually give seminars in all of these places, educating regulators and the government, you know, about the potential of this technology, the opportunities that India has as a country. So we are making efforts across the spectrum. If you see the Western world, you know, already large billion-dollar e-commerce companies have already started accepting Bitcoins over the last 2 years. Some really famous examples are Dell Computers in the US, Expedia in the US, WordPress, Japan's largest e-commerce company Rakuten, South Africa's largest e-commerce company, Bidderbuy. These are examples of large e-commerce companies globally which have already started accepting Bitcoins over the last year. In fact, recently Airbnb CEO went on Twitter asking for suggestions, and the number one requested suggestion on Twitter to Airbnb was to accept Bitcoin. So we are seeing this happen. In India right now, we are working at spreading Bitcoins to a critical mass of people in India before we start talking to e-commerce companies to accept Bitcoins.
Well, as you mentioned, the Bitcoin market in India has been a bit late to bloom. You know, we're a bit of a laggard in that regard. So that said, do you view this as a challenge or an opportunity?
It's absolutely an opportunity. So, you know, in India, we are a couple of years late. For example, we were late to the e-commerce party and to the smartphone adoption. But when 1.5 billion users come, we arrive with a bang. And I think the same thing is happening in India. I think in the 1.5 years of our existence, Zebpay has single-handedly catapulted India on the global Bitcoin scene. Zebpay is now one of the top 30 Bitcoin exchanges in the world, and it's a mission to bring it to one of the top 10 exchanges by the end of this financial year. We are ambitious and we are really in a hurry to spread Bitcoins in India before the price increases even further.
So Zebpay has often been called the country's least complex Bitcoin mobile exchange. But what makes it so?
So there's a myth around Bitcoins that they are highly complex and not for regular people. They're only for technocrats who understand cryptography and cryptocurrency. So when we sat on the drawing board, when we were deciding what has to be done at Zebpay, we realized that we'll have to make it simple to get regular people on board. Exchanges before us were web-based. They were a little complicated. So we came out with a wallet which is mobile-based, which is available on Android and Apple, and which makes it extremely simple for people to use, just like they are using any messaging app. So today, using Zebpay, you can send Bitcoins to anyone if you know their mobile number, and they will get it instantly.
Well, walk us through the numbers here. What sort of growth have you experienced in your user base? And would you say that this growth is largely strategic or purely organic?
So numbers is something I love to talk about because when we every day, every week, when we strategize Zebpay, we were very clear that we will measure success against the numbers that we do. So there is a week-on-week 7% target that we had set 18 months back when we started the wallet and an exchange. We were doing about 1,000 downloads a month. And you will be happy to note that last month Zebpay did 1 lakh users. Total, we have got about 500,000 users today. We are doing 1,000 Bitcoins trade a day, which becomes about 200 crores a month. And we will end financial year 2017 with 1,000 crores trade volume. Our strategy was very clear that we will make it simple. We will make sure that there is always liquidity available in the exchange, because of which more and more people are attracted. And once we have enough people, there is a network effect on Zebpay itself. So one person who likes Zebpay is asking 10 more people to join, and that's how the strategy has helped. We have always made sure that we will never do anything inorganic. Our marketing has been extremely low budgeted and organic. We don't provide any freebies. We don't provide any incentive for people to just download the app without using it. And of course, price movements have also been in our favor. Whenever Bitcoin prices have gone up, new set of users definitely download the application. But because of our customer support, because of our simplicity, and because of the liquidity that we provide, we think that Zebpay is doing great in India.
So like any other commodity, Bitcoins are subject to price volatility. But the boom and bust cycles when it comes to Bitcoins have been particularly extreme. That said, how does an end user time the market?
You are right when you say that Bitcoins are volatile. But Bitcoin was about $1 in 2011, and today, I mean in the early 2017, it was about $1,200. Any commodity will see definitely price movements, highly volatile price movements, whenever there is any news which may be sensitive to it. Having said that, the volatility has come down from 15 to 2, which is quite similar to most of the other currencies available worldwide. That's because it was a very small market cap of $100 million, which has now become $18 billion market cap. Having said that, Bitcoin is a great commodity to invest in. You don't need to time it. Today is the day to download Zebpay and just use it, because in the long run, there's always going to be limited supply, whereas the demand is going to rise as more and more people understand the technology, more and more people find it useful and would want to get into it. So I think today is the day to do it.
And do you see a link between demonetization and the recent surge in Bitcoin prices?
I wish it was that way, that Indian ecosystem of Bitcoins was so strong that it could affect the pricing movements. Any news in India could affect the pricing movement in Bitcoin. No, the fact is it's not. Bitcoin is affected by global price movements. For example, Donald Trump winning elections or Chinese yuan devaluing, Italian referendum happening. So that definitely affects the price movements. In India, Zebpay is playing a very important role in getting more and more user base, and going forward we have a target to be among the top 10 Bitcoin exchanges in the world. When that happens, we will see any movements, any news in India affecting the Bitcoin prices.
And do you see Bitcoins emerging as an asset class that investors begin to take seriously when looking to diversify their portfolios?
We have to define what is an investor. Today, a millennial is an investor. If he's saving 1,000 rupees every month and he's investing in Bitcoins, he's an investor to us. Through Zebpay, because we have got such an extremely easy and simple wallet, we have already created a new set of investors. They don't need to be financially savvy or understand the entire financial ecosystem. If you had invested 5,000 in 2011, it's worth 4 crore rupees today. It's the best asset class we ever seen, and we at Zebpay believe that we are at the right place at the right time.
It's time for a short break, but up next, our special feature on Bitcoin, the Internet of Money, continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to our special feature on Bitcoin, the Internet of Money. It's time we did a deeper dive on the underlying technology that powers the Zebpay platform. And you'll hear firsthand from the end users who have become Bitcoin believers. So the underlying technology behind Bitcoins is peer-to-peer based on open source software, which makes the currency entirely deregulated and decentralized. Is that its biggest plus point or pain point?
100% plus point. Let's think about internet. When internet came into existence in the 90s, every technology company wanted to build their own proprietary network. They used to call it information superhighways. But the problem with the proprietary network is that they restrict innovation. With Bitcoin and open network, you get innovation. With Bitcoin, you get companies like Zebpay innovating, simplifying the user experience. Where you get someone else who is trying to secure Bitcoin. Someone else is trying to scale Bitcoin. So innovation is the key here. When you have a decentralized network, you do not need anyone's permission. Think about after 20 years, what kind of applications you will get using this open network. And we think that we are timing it perfectly.
Our understanding is that Bitcoins are finite in quantity and therefore scarce. But we've come to learn that power users can be rewarded with newly created Bitcoins. So how is this accomplished?
Bitcoin is designed to be used as money. So it has to be limited in supply. In existing financial system, central bank creates money and then the money gets distributed via banking channels. This is a top-down approach and centralized approach. In Bitcoin, it is totally opposite. Both creation and distribution of Bitcoin is decentralized. Then how Bitcoin gets generated and distributed? So let's take analogy of gold. In gold, if you are willing to spend money and effort to dig deeper into earth and get gold, then you get gold. This process is known as mining. Same thing happens into Bitcoin. If you are willing to spend your money into electricity and computing power, then you will be rewarded by newly generated Bitcoins. And the mining process is very complex. So as a user now, you have two options. You can go through the mining process, which is very complex, or you can come to companies like us, Zebpay, where you can buy a small amount of Bitcoin and you can start experiencing this new technology.
So Bitcoin is a technology in beta. There's several regulatory challenges, on top of which India is a bit of a laggard in the virtual currency arena.
So Bitcoin is a very new technology, and it actually challenges your conception of money and how finance works. But at the same time, it is a very complex technology. So people will have to understand the complexity of Bitcoin addresses, the confirmation, the mining, and it's too much for them. So at Zebpay, when we started working on Zebpay, we understood these pain points, that it is really very tough for a new user or a normal user to understand all these concepts. So we designed Zebpay to be as simple as possible. We wanted Bitcoin to be as simple as messaging for new users. We started with a mobile first approach. We linked Bitcoin wallet to your mobile number. That was industry first at that time. And then we created the transaction interface just like a WhatsApp, just like messaging. So user does not have to understand anything. And then we are customer focused. We believe that we do not need to innovate customer behavior. It's all about solving customer pain points. So we found these pain points and we solved it.
Do you believe that Bitcoins have the potential to revamp this country's financial infrastructure? And if so, what role do you envision Zebpay playing in the process?
We believe that Bitcoin is going to create a new financial system that we all are going to see and experience. It will change the expectations from money. It opens up doors for new applications which we haven't imagined as of now. Trustless ID verification, trustless voting system, and lot more. But that transition is not going to be easy and not going to be done overnight. You need a platform which is trusted, which is simplifying this whole complex process. We are providing the right to technology, right user interface to experience that. And Zebpay provides you the platform that is safe, secure, simple to be a Bitcoin believer.
What fuels the entrepreneurial spirit here at Zebpay?
Bitcoin is very new, complex and exciting technology, and it can help solve a lot of problems in a country like India, which is building its financial infrastructure right now. So we believe that at Zebpay, our efforts to make this process simple and secure. So all you need is just a mobile phone and you can experience Bitcoin. We believe that we are rightly positioned to be the go-to place for Bitcoins in India, the most trusted Bitcoin exchange in India.
So when I first heard the term Bitcoin, I was really skeptical about it and I had many doubts in my mind.
I came across Bitcoin 6 years back in the US where it was very well understood and a lot of retailers were accepting it.
I started investing into Bitcoins 2 years ago at the level of 15,000 rupees per Bitcoin.
A year back, I saw Sandeep Goenka, the co-founder of Zebpay stock. That convinced me to convince my dad to buy 2 Bitcoins.
Through various articles, through various books, through various experts, I got all my doubts cleared.
In India, I wasn't sure how can you go about investing into it, and then I came across Zebpay, which is a very simplified platform. I was surprised at how easy it was to invest into Bitcoin through Zebpay.
I always advise my clients to invest into asset classes like Bitcoins over the long term for long-term wealth creation.
Thanks to Bitcoins and blockchains, the gap between the digital and the physical world is narrowed.
In the end, Bitcoin turned out to be a very good experience, a very profitable experience for me.
Bitcoin has tremendous potential for mass adoption in India.
And since then, it has produced an excellent results for me, and I'm actually personally very bullish about my Bitcoin investments.
Of course, all of this becomes simple because of platforms like Zebpay.
I'm a Bitcoin believer, and the way I see it, this is only the beginning.
Well, that brings our special feature on Bitcoin, the Internet of Money, to a close. I'm Pooja Jain, signing off from the Zebpay headquarters in Ahmedabad. We'll see you next time.